all rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We got public comment. We have 3 minutes for everybody who's signed up here. We do have this we've got a board presentation, and we also have a public hearing in reference to local law number 4 exception. So we're just going to go here, and if you want to speak, James Burnett. Okay. Got a little sloppy at the end of that. That's okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the board. I am James Burnett. I put my address in the record. Is that?
Yeah, 2
Farmstead Court in Watermelon. I'm appearing this evening representing the Southampton street artist known as Tanster. I don't know if you've heard her or seen her art up, but she was recently featured actually in this week's Dan's Papers as an article about the rich artistic and cultural traditions in Southampton. And she's continuing that tradition by her public art project. What she does is she takes recyclable materials, yard signs, and paints art on them. Very colorful pictures, sometimes they're stencils, non-offensive, non-political types of art, and puts them up in various places around the town and including in the village. However, it's recently brought to our attention that this may violate a village ordinance, and that in order to continue putting up art pieces around the village, we would need permission of the board to do that. So I'm addressing you tonight. There are 3 benefits to the Tanster's art project. 1, as I stated, a lot of materials used are recyclable. She takes illegal ads, yard signs, that kind of thing that are posted in public land. She also takes signs for expired events that are no longer being utilized but have been left up. So she's actually cleaning up the town by removing these, what can be eyesores. Either they're expired, as I said, or they're posted illegally. She then creates art out of them. These things are not political, they're not religious particularly, they're not offensive, they're very colorful, they're positive, and she places them up around the community, so she's actually beautifying the community or adding to the cultural traditions here in Southampton that we all do value and appreciate. The third benefit from her art is that she has recently partnered with the Coalition for Women's Cancers at Southampton Hospital, which is a very worthwhile charity. I'm sure we all know about all the good work they do, helping women deal with surviving cancer and those who are facing very serious end-of-life issues. Each piece of artwork that's now placed out has on the back of it donation information. The idea being that if someone values the art and takes it, and these pieces are always taken within a few days, sometimes within a few hours, so there's either collectors or fans out there who are putting some value on this art. The information includes a PayPal address for the Southampton Hospital, the Coalition for Women's Cancers, and also a mailing address if they want to send a check in to the hospital. So each piece is soliciting donations for the Coalition for Women's Cancer. None of these are advertisements. There's no promotion involved. She's not even using her actual name. So it's in no way considered any type of advertisement or bill or anything like that. This is art, and it involves charitable donations. What we really would like is permission from the board to continue putting out pieces. Usually there's 4 or 5 put up around in various spots at a time. They're not permanent anyway. It's not graffiti. There's no spray paint. A lot of the businesses where the art is put near have been very supportive of the art. They're fixed sometimes by staples to a tree or a post or something like that. They're very easy to take down. If the board would consider allowing us to do this, we can agree to any kind of terms or limitations, such as taking them down ourselves if they're still up after 4 or 5 days. We're not looking to mar the community or the beauty. We only want to promote creativity, artistic expression, and add to positivity and raise money for the Coalition for Women's Cancers.
3 very good points right there. The problem is that we are loaded with artists out here. And the moment I think that we, support one person doing this, I only imagine, I saw Gary Gillespie, our superintendent of public works back here, who was just raising his hand. I think the moment we do something like this and we, without some kind of structured show that's approved by the board, I think every artist out here would end up doing the same thing. And you know, it's great, it's interesting.
Would that be a bad thing?
Well,
Southampton does have a long tradition.
but if every single telephone pole or every corner had multiple artists on it, yeah, I think it would lose kind of the impact of what you know, the artist is actually kind of trying to create. You know, I mean, my wife and I were actually talking about this the other day. We were driving, saw some pieces that have popped up and different things that have all pretty cool stuff. You know, you don't know who the artist is. It's interesting stuff. But I think that, me personally, I think if this board sanctioned that behavior, you know, violate, I think they would have 1,000 artists all trying to come into the village of Southampton.
I certainly do understand that concern, and we don't want it to become any kind of a spam or anything like that.
Right.
But I think if the board were to grant permits or permission to each artist, that an individual, each artist would have to come forward, in other words, and ask permission for that. And then limits could be placed on it, structured just like you're saying. In other words, one piece at a time, something like that. There would be restrictions on how they can be installed, making sure they're not any kind of permanent piece.
Yeah.
I think that would serve both purposes of promoting the artistic traditions in Southampton, as well as this very worthwhile charity that we're now partnership with.
We love the hospital and the breast
Absolutely.
center, and what they've done over there is actually phenomenal. So I mean, I think that the board will have to talk about it and kind of absorb the thought. I mean, if you have a written statement, or if you have a plan that you'd like for us to consider, that would probably be the best way to start, is to say this is what we want to do, when we want to do it, where we want to do it. And
I would submit that to your office
Yeah,
if
submit it to my office here.
Okay.
A sample or two.
And a sample.
Oh, I
If-
have
if-
a sample.
Okay, the artist is here. I had a feeling. I'm sure everybody's seen.
But you can see that, you know, in the back,
yeah.
I have a link.
Well,
to
actually,
the
once-
hospital.
once-
Pardon me, I'm breaking protocol once
Yeah.
again.
Wow. Okay. I tell you, some artists, I tell you, you know.
It's difficult for us as well.
It's okay. But if we had a formalized plan that you
We
wanted
can
to
do that.
submit to the board,
Certainly.
we can look at it and give you an opinion one way or the other on it and stuff. So
All right.
I just don't want to create, you know,
I
we have a
understand.
lot of great artists out here. We really do. And so we're very fortunate, you know, to have that stuff. So, okay.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Shall we move right on to CMAT?
Okay, no, so let me just get through this here. Okay. And, Mary Jane Asado, so you're part of the public hearing here? Well, are you part of the, Mary Jane?
Yes, I'm part of the public hearing.
Okay, all right, you just signed in for the public comment section,
Okay.
so that's okay. All right, so, I'm actually gonna, anybody else from the public would like to make comment? Okay, so, I'm gonna modify the agenda real quick to do to go to a suggested resolution here for,
Item 3.
item number 3. Yep.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the mayor's appointment of Alan McFarland to the Planning Board with a term expiring June 30th, 2015. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Alan, come on up and get sworn in here.
Make you official.
Thank you, Steve.
Raise your right arm, repeat after me.
Yes, sir.
I, Alan Farland,
I, Alan McFarland,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United
and
States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York.
and that I will faithfully discharge
I will faithfully discharge
the duties of
the duties of
a member of the Planning Board
member of the Planning Board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. There you go.
So Alan's taking the.
Michael, I'm taking one of your old spots. I think.
That's right, that's right.
Thank you, welcome.
He's taking
Give
the
it a
spot of
try.
Pat Corrigan, who resigned from the planning board back in November. through the interview process. We had several good candidates, and you've
Tell me what to do.
stepped up for us. So. You'll be fine.
Thank
You'll
you.
be fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Yeah, board presentation, Job's Lane Wall, CMAC.
I'd like to podium to Michelle Thompson, Director of the Southampton Arts Center, to start with a little background on the Southampton Arts Center's activities, and then I will follow up.
Good evening. First of all, thank you so much for entertaining a continued conversation on this topic. I'm really grateful, and I'm going to be very, very brief in the interest of everybody's time. It's been quite a few months now, I think, since last we spoke, and I have been through a full summer and fall and winter season at Southampton Arts Center. I think that we have really made a lot of progress in the context of our mission towards opening up the space and integrating the exterior, the yard, the arboretum, and the interior for programming purposes. A few examples. We did take down an interior temporary wall to open up the door to the west lawn, which has brought a lot more light into the space and has also changed the way that we're able to utilize the grounds and really open the building onto the property in a new and more integrated organic way. Over the course of the summer, we had 20,000 plus people through the property, including all of our outdoor activities as well as our gallery shows and our indoor talks and concerts and the like. And then over the course of the fall, or particularly with this last gallery show that was up from Thanksgiving weekend through New Year's weekend, we had another more than 1,500 people, which for me was really almost as exciting as having 20,000 in the summer. 1,500 in the dark days of winter is pretty cool. Anyway, we really are hoping to push forward with opening the fence a little bit more in the hopes of communicating more effectively to the public that we are open for everybody. In the course of the summer, and I was there for almost every program outside, it did become very clear to me that the fence as it is currently was off-putting to some people. You would see people standing outside the fence or putting their head in the gate and not actually walking in. And we made an effort to go and sort of corral some of those folks on an ongoing basis. And we could drag them in, but there weren't enough of us to get all of them. We didn't have a big net to pull them in. So I do think it would be really, really helpful if we could take it to the next step and approve one of the options that we're presenting for more public access, just to make sure that the entire community understands that Southampton Arts Center is theirs. So thank you, and I'm going to pass the floor to CMAC so he can show you his beautiful renderings.
Good evening, trustees. So, as Michelle said, we've been quite successful in the past 2 seasons with our program. And to step back a little bit, close to 2 years ago, we were in front of your board where we brought in an architect, a firm of Machado Silvetti from Boston, to come up with long-term plans for restoration, renovation, and a small expansion of the existing facility to accommodate it, and a shift from a museum building to a performing arts building. And that's basically key to what the Southampton Arts Center is and what's the main difference between that and the old parish, being that we're a performing arts center, much more active with the types of programs that we're bringing in, both indoor and outdoor. That plan envisioned auditorium that was actually quite expansive in the sense that it would step down to a lower level and provide all the space at the lower level for green rooms and support infrastructure for the stage with minimal impact onto the grounds of the Arboretum. With that, of course, we also had a cost estimating done, and we realized that basically the cost for undertaking and providing a facility of that nature in the absence of developed programs is basically being rash. So we stepped back and we said that rather than start and commence on a major restoration project, let's take small steps. Let's put our focus on the program. A good portion of our focus has been on the grounds, activities that are there. With the film series every Friday on the lawns, with the lecture series, with the puppet shows, these are just a few. The regular farm, the Sunday farm market, which is also on the grounds. This has really invigorated the grounds of the center. Atterbury, architect for Mr. Parrish, when he designed this building, he didn't build it all in one stage. It was 3 different stages. Originally, actually, the entrance was on the east side, approaching from Main Street. As the need for the museum expanded, it was expanded into in 2 stages onto Job's Lane. And the last stage was the present-day entrance with the retaining wall containing the grounds of the Arboretum, or the gardens. And again, I want to emphasize that that was looked at as a private museum for the public, of course, but more of a museum, indoor space, and the grounds of the Arboretum surrounding it and separating it from the rest of the village. Our task basically is right now to bring the grounds into the domain of a public park, into the domain of the center's activities on the grounds. And to that extent, we came to you last year proposing to open up one of the bays, a central bay. There are about 9 bays on this retaining wall, each one of them about 13.5 foot wide. And we're proposing to open up one center bay of that, using the same brick to return onto the steps, and using historic bricks that we've brought in from a project in East Hampton for an older house that was demolished, and pave the steps going up, 3 steps going up to the elevation of the grounds. A walkway, brick walkway will connect it to the remainder of the walkways on the ground. And that's simply it, nothing more than that. It primarily makes the grounds much more inviting. We also, since last year, of course, when we presented, you mentioned that let's take some time and sit on this and get some feedback and so forth, which we did. The Southampton Press wrote a very nice article supporting actually this opening. But since then, I also looked at other options. One of the options also is to expand the opening at the far west. There is a small opening of about 10 feet, and we could bring down one additional bay next to that and add it to that step. That would make it an opening that would be close to 22.5 foot, 23 feet. That's quite a wide opening. And one of your drawings, I have here, both of these options available for you. The first one is the option that I presented to you last year, which basically shows the central bay, one of the bays that is consistent with the size that Atterbury designed for each one of these bays. One of those would be opened up and more central to the grounds, which would be much more inviting.
Matt, could we actually show that to everybody
Sure.
in the audience right there?
And this is basically the central bay opening. 4 bays on either side of this. The second option, which is widening the step on the far west. This provides a much wider opening at 22.5 foot, which is not consistent actually with the rhythmic order that was designed by Atterbury, much wider in scale in relationship to the grounds and actually in relationship to the fence itself, the retaining wall itself. we hope that the trustees look at this thing not only from the perspective of preservation, but also from the point of view of bringing new life to a new use for this building. That being not a museum anymore, but basically performing arts, with the grounds as a major component of that. To that extent, also in this past year, we met with the New York State Landmarks and the Parks County, Suffolk County, and requested the review of this project, and we were approved for funding up to 50% of this at $16,000, which we have gotten approval for it, and we need to go back to them with an answer regarding this step. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you do have. In these drawings also, I've shown lanterns on top of the posts. That need not necessarily be the case. We're looking at other options too, where the lighting would be just at the elevation of the brick steps and just lighting up the steps. And down the line, the lighting would probably be more detailed looked at as far as lighting some of the trees, and also bringing in some benches along the pathways, brick walkways. I've been talking to Charlie Marder from Marder's, and we're looking at a sample of benches that are very unique in design and very much actually consistent with the window patterns, the crosses that are in Atterbury building, and line up a bunch of those along the paths of the walkway.
Mac, do you want to talk also about how you're going to restore all of the
Yes.
wrought iron fencing? I mean,
Correct.
it's all going to be. You can talk
Well,
about
this
that.
is not. This project's not going to be contained in only that step going up. The whole stretch of the wall, as you all know, is in desperate need of repair. Especially towards the east side, there is certain portions of the cap are missing, broken, covered with plywood. So we're going to be looking comprehensively at the whole length of the wall and basically restoring that to its original specifications as part of this project.
Any other questions for CMAC while we've got him here?
No, but we should definitely thank him for all his work. I mean, without a doubt.
That's no way to thank you for all the work you've done around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good stuff here.
You know, Rich, have any questions? I mean, you talked about in reference to that opening up the western side
Correct.
there
Yeah.
the
No,
last
I mean, I
time.
like that you got back with some renderings of that. Lights up top, I actually don't mind. I think that was, when is the grant? When is that up? You said is that what you were alluding to?
Yes.
The partial of that?
They approved 50% of the cost of the project. We submitted numbers for restoration, renovation, and obviously we have to look at some additional funds for the restoration of the full wall. But we've been approved for $16,000 of grant, which from what I've spoken to Jem Messiano, this is the second grant from the county, which they're waiting for an approval. And I'm hoping that we do give them the okay sign, because we are really competing with a lot of other institutions out here. We're lucky that we did get approval on this. And if this would be the second case that if they're denied, basically, or if we deny that grant, that getting them back down the line, which we really do need them for the building itself. I mean, that's a major undertaking that we're working on in the next few years. We'll be starting on that. We need them as a partner in this project.
Right, absolutely. I agree with you there. It's,
You know, one of the
Good
interesting things with your concept, and it's really just from a retail perspective, and you and I sort of discussed this, is if you sit on Job's Lane and you watch the traffic, foot traffic coming from Main Street down Job's Lane, all the foot traffic comes up to the old library and the Arts Center, and they cross the street and they go down the other side. And, you know, my feeling, and obviously yours, because at first I was hesitant on you opening that wall, is that there's no invite to the general public. And I think you gotta make a very conservative effort to bring people onto those grounds, because those grounds are pretty magnificent. You know, that's a pretty large piece of property to have in the middle of the village, and it's totally underutilized. And if you can get people up there, you're really gonna be ahead of the game.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah.
CMAC, we met, this was Friday, to go over all of this. And at first I was very against this because I felt this is in the historic district and we're changing something that has always been a real part of the village, and it kind of upset me. But the use of the building is changing, and the use of the building is changing in such a way that it's going to be inviting the public and is including the public in so much more than it ever has in the past. And I feel that the way that you've done this is really terrific. I mean, it's not, it's beautifully done. I didn't like the lantern, and I did tell you that, and I thought if we could do that, something a little more subtle than that. And I think it's a great idea now.
Bill, I know you can barely talk or anything like that. I don't know if you had any comments.
I would just, I think it is a super idea. And I know we're giving up something, we're disturbing something, but you are going to be so damn happy with yourself for doing this, and the village is going to be so happy, at least in mine, I'm convinced. I could tell you a story of something similar once that was done to open up Agawam Park, but we won't go there. I really think it's just a great idea. And the Agawam Park, I was glad I didn't ask anybody's permission. I would have been turned down. But anyhow, this is wonderful. And I really, you could say it's 5% questionable and 95% perfectly certain.
I'd like to also stress that in line with opening this up, we're opening up, and we have been working on not just opening the grounds through these steps, but really improving these grounds far beyond what it is today. There's still a lot to be done. All on the north side, north edge of this property. As you know, we expanded the grounds on the east side, on the old library side. We still have to connect the walkway that passes by the village hall onto the eastern entrance. That has to be improved. I just handed Michelle this last week from a donation of $50,000 towards the refurbishment of the fountain on the west side of the property. So step by step, we're going to be bringing that garden back to its glory and beyond. In the long term, of course, with the building being restored and renovated, we're going to bring a new face and a new address to the building on the parking lot side of it for larger entrance and activities on that side. But this step basically would be the initial or preliminary step towards really bringing this garden back to life and to the public's domain.
Yeah, thanks for all your work and stuff. I know we have a letter from Henry Hildreth. I don't know if anybody else from the public would like to speak to. So in reference, support or opposition? You want to read Henry's?
I have Whitney's also.
And Whitney's also, yes, thanks.
Dear members of the Southampton Village Board, as co-chair of the Southampton Arts Center, I am incredibly proud of what we have accomplished and am excited about what is to come. Critical to making Southampton Arts Center integral to the footprint of the village will be improving access to both the building and the grounds. With this in mind, I wholeheartedly support the plan before you to create a central entrance to Southampton Arts grounds within the Jobs Lane wall. The plan proposed by Southampton Arts Center Board and architect CMX Sammy will encourage foot traffic throughout the grounds, ease access for outdoor programming, and reinvigorate an imposing entrance. To illustrate the necessity of this project, it is important to recognize the difference between what this building was and what it is becoming. It was a private collection and then a private museum. In an op-ed in the Southampton Press, editor Joseph Shaw writes, architect Grosvenor Atterbury, who designed the museum for Samuel Parish in the late 1800s, was known to design buildings with lawns elevated from public sidewalks to create a feeling of privacy and separation from the bustle of town life, according to Tom Edmonds, Executive Director of the Southampton Historical Museums and Research Center. The feelings of privacy and separation were appropriate, even necessary, for parish's private collection and the Parish Art Museum, who infrequently utilize the ground. Now Southampton Arts Center has created a public cultural hub which hosts a variety of activities, including lectures, visual art exhibits, and cabaret evenings, in addition to outdoor children's programmings, film screenings, and concerts on the Jobs Lane grounds. Many of these programs are free or at low ticket prices. The proposed plan will respect the historical significance of the architecture while adapting the property to reflect the inclusive nature of Southampton Arts Center's mission. At your request, the Board of Southampton Arts Center and Mr. Sammy has explored alternatives to their proposed plan, including reviewing drawings of the two primary alternatives. To renovate and expand the west entrance, your suggested alternative, we believe, could actually be more intrusive and disruptive to the original sensibility. To create a central entrance would minimize the disruption as well as serve as a focal point and create a balance to the wall's openings. Southampton Arts Center plans to go to great lengths to ensure that historically accurate materials are used, such as archived original bricks and wrought iron similar to the original. We have spent huge amounts of time and effort and expertise in trying to figure out the right thing to do. That balances the architectural integrity with the need to evolve the mission and access from private to open. Please consider our proposals seriously because it can genuinely be transformative to how we all experience this extraordinary building and grounds. The success of Southampton Arts Center is critical to the economic and cultural vitality of the village. To approve the plan would be to reinvigorate a historic property and demonstrate your commitment to revitalizing our village through historically sensitive adaptive reuse. Sincerely, J. Whitney Stevens, co-chair. And then from Henry Hildreth, please accept my full support for the plan to create a central entrance within the Jobs Lane wall at Southampton Arts Center. The plan would encourage foot traffic throughout the grounds, ease access for outdoor programming, and create an inviting park setting in the heart of the village while maintaining the essential balance and integrity of the beautiful fence that's designed by Grosvenor Atterbury. Where the parish property was originally designed as private space, Southampton Arts Center has opened up as a public cultural hub which hosts a variety of activities including lectures, visual art exhibits, and comedy shows, in addition to outdoor children's programming, film screenings, and concerts at the Jobs Lane grounds and in the building. Many of these programs are free or at low ticket prices to encourage members of the entire community to embrace the center as their own. The proposed plan respects the historical significance of the original architecture while adapting the property to reflect the changes in the nature of the property's mission. A balanced central opening designed with preservation in mind is appealing on many levels as we look to the future of the village with vital shops, restaurants, and cultural activities all within an easy walk from the center. Southampton Arts Center's success is a key to the economic and cultural vitality of the village. To approve the plan would be to reinvigorate a historic property and demonstrate your commitment to revitalizing our village through historically sensitive adaptive reuse. Sincerely, Henry Hildreth.
I don't know if there is anybody else from the public who would like to speak. Gary? Gary Gillespie. I'll let Gary go first here.
Good evening.
Hey, Gary.
Well, this is an uphill battle for me now. Actually, when we spoke months ago, I thought we were almost at an end at this. I thought the village had decided that this wasn't a good idea, but obviously there's been a change of heart, and a lot of people are looking the other way at this. C-Mac Sammy is a friend. I admire the man greatly. I think he's doing a fantastic job over there. He was a gentleman enough to call me this afternoon, and we met and we did discuss this before the meeting. That being said, I still am against the idea of doing this, and I just wrote a little prepared statement. On page 5 of the Southampton Center Vision Plan, it lists a goal of preserving our unique streetscapes. And in that document, it uses pictures of the wall in question as an example to preserve. The north side of Jobs Lane, including the museum and the library, is probably the prettiest section of any downtown town street in our village, and it does deserve to be protected. I myself would play on that wall as a child, and for many years have repaired it as a village worker. Over a decade ago, at the request of the mayor and the parish, I myself reworked the rusted gates so they would open. And I even brought props. The mayor at that time had me hang this sign, basically inviting everybody onto the grounds because the space was underutilized. Nobody came in. After that, we decided we were going to remove all the shrubbery so we'd have greater visibility into the space. CMAC was involved with that idea as well. We did all that, and it is a very open space, so you can see everything that goes on from the street, but that didn't work either. The next plan CMAC and I were both kind of involved in was to change the western entrance, where they put in nice stairs, architecturally matching, looked very good. But once again, it didn't work. The amount of stairs you have there is not the reason the people are staying out. You need to give the people a reason to come into the space. So tonight, if we're talking about taking a 100-year-old wall and removing a section to put in another set of stairs, you know, I start to thinking of the definition of insanity, because here we are, it didn't work several times. Now we're doing the same thing a little bit over, and that's not working either. You know, we're taking a streetscape that is basically less than 200 feet of a 100-year-old wall, where we already have 3 sets of stairs, and now we're going to add a 4th, and we're going to think that this is going to make everybody come onto the property. Right? I disagree. I think this is something that, it's been there a long time. What you're trying to do has a good chance of not working, and then once you do take this section of the wall down, you're actually giving permission to the next person to widen it, put in a 5th set of stairs, or remove the wall altogether. So really that's it. You know, historically and sentimentally, I'd like you to see if you leave that wall alone. I'm not really prepared to have anybody else speak with me, because up until 2 hours ago I didn't know this was being discussed. So if you're not going to vote to leave it alone, I'd at least let you give me some time to talk to some people before you do vote on this at all. Touched a little.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Anybody else? Aaron? Mark?
My name is Erin Hattrick. I own Topiary Flower Shop, and I'm also the president of the Chamber of Commerce. I think that the idea when CMAC came to me was fabulous. I think that the space is evolving for everybody locally, and I did just, we were involved, the Chamber, with the Southampton Center with a frozen performance, and it was so great when local people walked up to me at Wallbaum's and said, that was the greatest day I've had with my kids. And to think that has always been very off-putting, sort of, it's frightening to people and it's intimidating. And then when you have that big black wall, the gates, I feel like this will open something up even further. And this space has been evolving and people's minds are opening to new things. And so things that might not have worked in the past will work now. So that's all I have to say.
Mark?
Good evening. Mark Parrish, Southampton Village. I'm in full support of this. I think it's great. I've had the opportunity over the last 2 seasons to spend some time at the Art Center for some of their events, and I've really felt connected when I've gone in there, connected with the people, connected with the community. And I think making this flow better, like Michael had said, makes a tremendous amount of sense, because on the street you sort of get confused when you come up. Which way do I go up? Is it the west? Is it the center? Is it the 2 gates? Having this will be grand in one way. It really will. It will invite people up. The flow will be really nice. And I think Southampton is moving forward. The Art Center is going with that forward movement. And I think it's important that we do move forward, because this center, I really believe, and I've said this to quite a few people in the last year, really has the potential to be the pulse of the village in the future. And I'm really behind this. I think CMAC's drawings are beautiful. I think the center, in my opinion, is the best possible scenario, and it looks the best, and it's going to make the most sense. So I think it is a fantastic thing, and I would love to see this move forward. Thanks.
Anybody else want to speak on it? So, any board members have any response and stuff? So.
Is this in the FEMA zone?
I think it's just barely outside the FEMA line there. So.
Just barely outside.
What a relief.
I mean, I thank CMAC for drawing up the westerly opening and making that wider, because that was one of the things that actually was discussed as an option, you know, as a compromise. And even though I may be against whatever the majority, that's what I would be for, if anything, is a compromise. Restoring a bit of the wall, and I actually like the widened steps to the west. I think the fact that they're wider than what's proposed for the center is inviting, especially according to these pictures. So that's, you know, if we were to go ahead with something to take advantage of this grant, which I think would be foolish not to take advantage of, because they got to, you know, the idea of opening up is, I agree with, it's just a matter of where, and also trying to preserve. It's a tough call, which is why I would go for the westerly rendition.
Can I say something? I wouldn't go for the westerly. So you want the westerly, I don't want the westerly. I think it's a better balance if it's in the center. I think the westerly is wide open, and it just throws the whole wall off balance. I think by opening it where you're opening it, people coming down the street will realize that there's steps going up on the property, but it's not the kind of thing where, wow, look at what they've done here. They've opened this huge opening in this wall, whereas it's just a small opening in the wall, but it's smack in the middle, and it brings you right onto the property. So I don't like the westerly. I thought it was a good idea to explore it, but your pictures, it was very large to me. I prefer, it balances better if it's in the center. My opinion.
Anybody else, any comments? I mean, and Gary, I respect your position on this, and I think some of the reasons that you stated why we should keep it and what's failed are the exact reasons why we need to look to open the wall up. And so, I mean, I've been a supporter of this right from the very beginning of opening the grounds and opening this wall up and doing this. So, because it's a whole different use for the space, and taking this into the next 100 years, how do you get people onto the property, and how do you get people to realize that this is owned by the village, it's the village, it's the residents, property owners, the people that come here, it's your place. And I think that Southampton has done a great job, and Michelle, you've done a good job in the last year in getting everybody, and look at the Fairley, who's on the board, and Tom Knight, who's also on the board, is here tonight, and you guys have done a fantastic job of just creating activity in CMAC. The time and effort that you've done from the planning commission all the way through to even being parts of this, this village owes you a lot, you know. So, so Rich likes the opening on the western side. Michael, you like the?
I like the center opening, and as we discussed, I'd love to see the gate removed on the west side. You know, we're a village that all of a sudden gates are a really big thing. You can see that as you drive around. Everybody wants a gate. I think you should break tradition there and open it up and get rid of gates. You know, invite the people in. Don't try to, you know, close them out.
Nancy, I know what yours, Bill, you're,
It's a judgment call, but I think once it's done, you will wish you did it sooner. That's just my judgment.
Do you like it in the center, or do you like it on the?
Center.
okay. So, I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the Southampton Arts Center to move forward with their plans to open the gate as presented by CMAC in the center with support of the Suffolk County grant.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. There you go. Okay. Thanks, guys.
You guys, thank you for the drawings.
Make it nice now.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Well, we need to we need to get together with Gary and talk about a whole wall restoration project. We need to put develop an RFP for this and try to find some experts on this we really have to, that one wall portion that's falling down, and I think we have some safety issues associated with that entire place right there. And some artist keeps hanging pictures and stuff like that, trying to cover up all the faults in that wall. That's what I thought you were doing. I thought you were just saw a crack in the wall, you wanted to cover that up, so.
We'll pull the wool over.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay, we've got a public hearing, local law number 4 exemption on Halcyon Lodge LLC. I think that's. We need to.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing on local law number 4 exemption Halcyon Lodge LLC.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good
Okay.
evening, Mary Jane Asada.
Mary, now I'm gonna have to ask you to use the microphone so it gets all recorded here. So, thanks.
Well, can I have that? I don't have audio in the middle of it.
Oh,
I can talk really loud.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Mary Jane Asado, Burke Flanagan Asado, 21 South Main Street for Halcyon Lodge LLC. I have with me Nicholas Stanos from the Architectural Office of Chickanani and Carlos from New York City, and Melissa is our environmental consultant as well. What's before you is the what my partner Gil calls the Elsie Nelson House. It's historically been deemed historically significant as well as contributing. The previous owners actually went before the ARB to try to remove this house and were denied, except they did grant a hardship demolition permit for the 2 wings that were subsequently added to the original main house. Just so you get an idea of what it looks like, the part that we're talking about, I'm just going to put these photographs. This is the wing that I'm here before you. It's the glass, what's called the Philip Johnson wing.
Oh, yeah.
This is the
Yeah,
bulkheaded
we've
piece
heard
of,
about that.
okay. It's the bulkheaded piece of property. It slopes from the ocean, being high on the ocean side, back toward the street. It's all pre-existing non-conforming. And this Philip Johnson addition has approval from the Southampton Village Architectural Review Board to be removed. And the other wing on the other side also has permission to be removed, but the current owner that purchased this property is not doing that. All they're doing is they're going to renovate the existing building, including the other wing, and the only thing that they're proposing is to remove this modern wing and replace it with a conforming configuration. Now, I have all kinds of elevation data for you, but just on the basis that if I could distribute so you get an idea of existing Philip Johnson versus the proposed. I have these graphics, so there's enough for all of you. If you would kindly just take the one set on top and then pass it, I think illustration-wise, you'll see what's going on. And I can put the east one.
One of these?
Just so you can get an idea of bulk, Mr. Stanos has been kind enough to, this red area is the existing Philip Johnson. And it's been superimposed on the proposed. And so just so you have a concept of spatial relations, really, the Philip Johnson has a flat roof. And what's proposed is a roof line to match the other roof line, but we're not going any higher than what's comprehensively there. In fact, the gable, the center gable of the existing gable peak is 58.1. The existing gable peak is 58.1. The proposed roof line that we're matching to the top of that gable is 54.1, the proposed gable. And as Mr. Stanos had pointed out to me, it's to match what's existing on the other side and to bring this Victorian building as a comprehensive whole and take down the glass addition to it that doesn't in any way meet this historical building. Now, We have skyplane data, even though it hasn't been adopted. Melissa was kind enough to bring to my attention that there were some suggestions. So, which I will submit, but just so we can point out, none of this building, the elevation, base flood elevation is 17 here. That's what's required. So if you do the freeboarding plus 2, that brings it 19. We don't comply. Existing building does not comply. All right. As I pointed out to you, the peak of the gable that exists now is at 58 with a non-compliant FEMA building. However, it's historically been deemed significant. There's going to be a complete renovation on this building. And the actual, I'm going to turn it around so you can see, as Mr. Summers has pointed out to me, really this is the addition right here. So really the horizontal of the Philip Johnson is wider and out of, as architectural apparently, proportionately, this is historically more pleasant, with a peaked roof that matches the other side, et cetera. Now, I can't say to you when you look at the sky plane, which is apparently, you take base flood, and what's being suggested, not adopted, is base flood plus 6, is my understanding, with 33 degree angle. Now, if we do that, the proposed new roof will not meet that sky plane. However, I bring to your attention that there's no living space up there, and it's to keep the architectural integrity of this building, which has been deemed significant, and it's to match the other side. So we're not going any higher, and this is not currently in the law, but it's my understanding that that is the suggestion. As far as from Front Street, that's not an issue at all. The sky plane, the 40-foot back and the 33, that is not an issue whatsoever. And in fact, the sky plane for what's suggested, the 33-degree angle, changes because of the severe slope of the property that it currently exists, and the fact that this house doesn't sit square on the lot. It's skewed. All right. So I understand that that the other applications, if you've looked at, have to do with proposed new construction. I submit to you that this is a difference. We're talking about a long-standing historical building. It exists here at 58.1 as the existing peak. The proposed addition, although to replace the Philip Johnson flat roof modern addition, although it's going to be at its peak 54, it doesn't exceed the gable at the other side that exists, nor is it even as high as the existing peak on this property. I cannot submit to you that it meets flood, but that's a different situation with the village provides that if you have historic buildings, there are a lot of exemptions, and certainly we're going to be before the ZBA, et cetera, for those things, and we're going to be before the Architectural Review Board for the design. Do you have any specific questions that you would like answered right now?
So this is the Henry Ford house,
Yes,
right?
sir. Right. There's only been 2 owners since this owner.
Okay.
The only other thing I would add is that, if you remember at the Planning Commission hearing, they did say that they would allow for gables and certain architectural features to pierce the sky plane.
Right.
So I would
And
submit that.
it's really to keep the integrity, the architectural integrity of this long-standing house that's, I think it's gone over and over from the ARB how significant this is and how long-standing it is to the community.
That's interesting because, with the the whole reasoning for the sky plane was actually about privacy issues with your next door neighbor. And it looks to me like a significant portion of this new addition actually doesn't fall into that proposed sky plane. So,
I believe that's the attic portion.
That's the attic
That's
portion
the
only.
attic, so it's not
It's
living
just a
area.
gabled roof, and in fact, it depends on which side. If you're on the low side versus the house, skewed, because
what you're saying is there are no third-floor living quarters in.
no third-floor living quarters in the proposed addition. It's just attic roof, and it's to match the other attic roofs that already exist. Okay, so we're taking this glassed part, and there's a roof to match these gables, but there's no living space in that area. There's no living space whatsoever.
Is there living space in the third floor now?
There's living space pre-existing in the third floor now, but we're not expanding that.
Okay.
The Phil Johnson is 2-story, this will be 2-story with the attic on top.
Comments from?
Well, my comment would be, and really maybe council can provide us some guidance, why are we hearing this? Because the intent of hearing applications on the moratorium are if there's sincere hardship and the project needs to move forward right away. This house was just bought, right, recently?
Yes.
And now they're submitting an application. I'm not so sure it fits in the guidelines that we should be hearing this.
Well, the Architectural Review Board case, during that course of that, this house is in really bad condition. And when we put this together, we didn't expect that the recommendations would be coming forward as quickly as they did. And so that's why this application was filed, because essentially the bulk of this is an existing house that we can't get a building permit to even renovate. In fact, I would say 80% of this is renovation, but we can't get a building permit to renovate because the existing house exceeds the height limitation. So it is a hardship in the sense of we're not proposing new construction, but we can't, stop the deterioration and what was documented deterioration of this house because it was let go by the previous owner for a long time, even though it's existing because of this moratorium. So that is really our submission as hardship, that we're not talking about, this house isn't going to go away. It exceeds the height limitation.
It's a nice house. I have no problem with the house. It's just that I think that the hardship issue, we're looking at, what, maybe 3 more months?
If that.
But we can't even go in front of the ARB.
Right, but I can't see any further deterioration of the house in 3 months.
If we could do pre-applications, including the various, there's a lot of permits that are required, then 3 months would not be an issue. But we can't even file we can't go to the Architectural Review Board, and that's a rather lengthy process. Until we know what their design parameters are going to be, we really sort of hesitate with septic and it's sort of the chicken and the egg. If 3 months from now we could just file and get a building permit, then that really would not be an issue. But really, we can't go any further on the design aspect even because of the existing height situation of the existing house, that all building permits, all architectural things are at a sort of a standstill. And so if we start now, construction is certainly not going to be beginning for some time because of all the various regulatory things that we need. And if we start 3 months from now, it's going to take it probably into the winter. So we ask you to please take consideration in the fact that there's a greater hardship to the applicant considering they have an existing house as a significant contribution to the village, it's been determined, versus there's no detriment since this house exists. I mean, we're not trying to build a new house, and it's not going to go away. And the moratorium suggestions don't have impact really on this house as much as new construction.
Right. I'm just trying to get my hands around this addition here and what it does from
Well, that's the whole thing, is that
Yeah.
we're actually here not because of the addition, we're here because of the main house. Anything done to a main house that doesn't, or a house that doesn't meet
Right.
with a 35-foot height. So we can't even begin to go to the ARB and explore this
yeah.
without getting the exemption. Because really, I would actually submit this is more of an ARB decision
Oh,
discussion.
I mean,
Yeah, but, yes.
well,
We can't do anything.
We can't work.
Yeah,
It's the existing house is a 58.1, so literally, I can't,
It's not changing.
I would, just right now, I would say, for me personally, I would say, okay, if you were coming in here just to say we're gonna restore this house, we're not doing any additions to it, and you're asking for relief off that, I would be in favor of doing, me personally, I'd be in favor of doing that, and then let you go to the ARB to kind of work on additions to it. And I don't know if that's, I don't even know if that, we can even do that. Rick, what are your thoughts on that? If I catch you completely off guard here, so.
No, that's a good point, because a lot of ramifications of design concept and the addition
Right.
are being discussed by the planning commission.
Yeah.
But your hardship is a good point, because it is habitable, they can live in it. Because
Well-
part of the hardship other people propose is
Yeah.
because other people have proven
well,
to
the
us.
engineering reports that were presented at the architectural review board portion were pretty bad. I mean, they were pretty serious because they actually gave permission to take down the Philip Johnson edition as well as the other edition.
Well, that notwithstanding, but my point, what I was gonna make with that is, keeping in mind with the previous exemptions we gave, which, were vacant, majority of them were vacant land, and an argument that was made from some of those applicants, which was then weighed by this board, was that was actually more of a hardship, because, like you're saying, you're stuck until anything goes forward, but they were stuck without anything. And
You can't live in
You
this.
can't live.
You can't live here.
So this is.
In fact, the person who had it previously wasn't living here. He was trying to, they spent over a year, almost a year, trying to take it down. So
Oh, yeah.
they weren't
There are
living
mold-
here.
There's mold issues.
You
There's
can't live
other
here.
issues, lead paint.
Yeah.
The building needs to be renovated.
There's no question in my mind the building needs to be renovated and stuff, so,
And if you'd like to, you can go and look at, I mean, we
With the,
welcome, nobody can live here.
with the Phillips Johnson addition, how does it, and how's the sky plane, that 33-degree sky plane? How does it, does that breach that sky
No,
plane?
no, because it's a flat roof. In fact, that was one of the,
Well, what I was getting at is the addition far enough over that with the angle, does the angle take a corner of it and stuff, do you know? I mean,
no.
There you
I
have it
believe
right
so.
there.
You can kind of see from the site plan too, that how it's skewed, the way that
right.
it doesn't move.
No, it's
doesn't run
it's
parallel.
definitely strangely positioned. It's a
No, the
gr-
house
it's-
is very oddly
no,
positioned.
it's a-
That's unfortunate.
It's a great challenge to the architect and the property owners, and the building does need to be renovated. And
It really needs a top-down rehabilitation, and that was one of the things that were, I mean, the record at the ARB is pretty thick.
Yeah.
And they granted, because of the condition of the two wings, how bad they were, a Hart's exemption to actually take them down. However, they said that the original main part of the building had such historical significance that, well, they wanted it restored and maintained. My client stepped up to the plate. He definitely cannot be lived in. It's not a matter of they can just go in and live in it this summer and wait. There's serious health issues, health safety issues, because it was just let go. The person intended to take it down, and the less they put into it, it supported their arguments of, hey, it's deteriorating. So we actually, and it's going to be a long renovation. We're not even talking about this is something that can be done. It's a lengthy renovation because that's historically, we have to keep in compliance with the historic situation, as well as there are environmental things that have to be maintained.
Upgrade septic system,
And so, and the sensitivity of the existing bulkhead, the dunes, et cetera. So I know that it may have been presented to you, well, there's no house there that they can live in. This is actually, if I could be so bold, it's bad in the sense of you can't just have a vacant land, you're paying taxes as if this is, well, it is improved. Okay, but it's truly, it's deteriorating badly. And don't take my word, but go take a look, it's bad.
Well, from your description of the deterioration, it's going to be a long process anyway. So in my mind, you got to think, well, you know, why not? What's wrong with waiting the extra couple of months and getting the design features, especially on the addition? I mean, I sort of think like you do. If they came in with just the main house with no addition, that would be one thing.
Yeah.
But coming in with an addition on there that has design features that I don't think this board, it's not their position to review those.
No, that's why we'd like to go before the ARB, because from the ARB's point of view, and we reviewed that record, is they wanted this house to have that historic, architectural, Victorian, classic, feel. And that's why, despite the challenges, that is what the architect's office has been really moving toward, integrating this building where the wings all have that significant historic look, that at least that the ARB indicated. And I could understand if the board was saying, well, by doing this, we're creating, we're creating a situation that doesn't, that's going to be somehow going to change depending on what the Planning Commission comes up with. But what I present to you is substantially the bulk of the house, it exists, and they've been sort of directed by the ARB, renovate it. So really, you have a house that exceeds the sky plan. If I came to you and said, hey, look, I'm creating this whole new property, and I wanted to breach this, and it doesn't comply, I can certainly see the hesitation more than I have a house, it exists, it's 58.1.
I mean, the current house, though, doesn't exceed the sky plane, right?
The current house doesn't exceed the sky plane, and
But the addition does.
the addition does. And the addition exceeds, matches. Well, it depends on to what extent, depending on whether you're at the front of the property or the back of the property, because of the way it's skewed and the volume. And some of the things that the designers incorporated what was said at the ARB about how they wanted historic matching. In fact, one of the neighbors didn't want a flat roof. They felt that was, well, I'm not going to use the word they used, but that it was just not appropriate. And so we have been trying to be sensitive to all the things that have come out at that lengthy and long hearing process.
And the other thing is, because it's pre-existing non-conforming and historic and not FEMA compliant and has issues, it's not a project you can do piecemeal. You have to do it all at the same time. You have to present it to the ZBA as one, you have to present it to the ARB as a single unit.
So on this house, now it's in the coastal erosion zone. Probably the entire house is up in
No,
there,
it goes
right?
right through the middle.
Just right through the middle of it.
But
Okay.
we're not changing the footprint of
So
the.
you're not changing the footprint. Were they planning on lifting the house up and doing any?
No FEMA compliance on it because of the historic. Because by doing that, you change that. It has a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, the engineers are looking at it right now.
But if you look at your current code as well as FEMA code, because it's been deemed so historically significant and contributing, it gets a lot of special relief, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I might just add that in our talks with the engineers so far in their preliminary review of the building structure and their review of the previous reports on the building, we may be underpinning the foundation to make it more structurally sound and lifting the house, but only temporarily. The intent is to bring the floor levels to the existing condition.
Okay.
It changes the whole feel. I mean, on the one hand, you say, all right, FEMA compliance pilings there, but then that totally impacts the historic situation. So this is we're walking this very fine line. It's like the Meadow Club. They weren't FEMA compliant. My partner worked on that, where there was a lot of exemptions, so to speak, granted because of its historical significance, and by doing certain things, it really changed the whole feel, the historic nature of the building. So, I mean, it would be substantially less expensive to basically take this down and build a facsimile rather than do it in place. But the clients knew that, my clients. They wanted to do that. They want to preserve the historic. In fact, they feel that it's that Victorian is one of the few things buildings that have been left intact from its original estate. And, it's a big venture, sir.
I would also say in a way it's kind of a hardship that the village, because if you remember, this property was on the market for a long time, trying to find a buyer, trying to find somebody to love it. We now have somebody who's willing to do the time, do it the right way, and now we're being told, well, you have to wait another 3 months.
And if it was only at 3 months, it would be, okay, but if we start then, we're going to be losing an entire building season again.
Well, also you run the risk of not getting it approved.
So.
You run the risk of not getting it approved because of the sky plane.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So it doesn't comply with the proposed sky planes that they would like?
But again, in this, the way it's, if you look at the planning commission, it said architectural features such as gables and everything would be exempt because they don't want to be flat. And I give to you that this is only a portion of the gable, and the reason the gable would be put there is to actually match the historic features of the existing house.
And the other side has the same, it's symmetry.
But the corner of that.
Well, and the reason is because it doesn't sit square on the property.
Right.
It's weird. Because the house, the other side meets it because it's because of the angle, versus if this house was square on this property, we would have less of an issue.
Well, the other side doesn't have the same roof line either.
It does. It has this.
Pretty steep.
It was the existing, this side here.
They
the
were
lower
matching.
ridge that we're talking about here that you see
that
in
part,
elevation is the existing condition face on from the west. On the west elevation is this.
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about on the top one,
There's the sky
all the way
plane.
to the left there.
Oh, that addition.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
it, yeah.
Yeah, we're leaving that addition as is, which
Right.
is, although we have permission to demolish it and renovate it.
Here.
Okay.
Now, I know this discussion is limited to the moratorium and building height, but I just wanted to point out in our historical research into the stick Victorian period that the original house was based upon, we found that although the penetrations, window openings, and details may be very eccentric and informal, the overall massings in the roof structures of these buildings was very rational. And so when we took that into account and the footprint that we had to work with and the existing conditions of that secondary lower ridge, that was our point of departure.
I think we should go out and look at the property.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
We welcome you, to.
Mary Jane, just the photograph that you have.
Which one? This one?
I think so.
The glass?
Yeah. I would just, I don't know if we could get us a couple of copies.
Oh,
of that.
absolutely. I'll give color as many as you,
Maybe-
I'll have them submitted.
Just dot in where.
Where
the
it's
new-
going to be?
Yes, the new roof line, right on the photographs.
You did
'cause
that
I
on the
look at
drawing.
these things from up
Okay,
above.
you know what, I can actually, I think that
We
you
can
can
do
do a
that.
computer render, I will absolutely get
we'll
that.
be able to look at
Okay,
what's
so you want to
there
hold
now.
the hearing open for further submissions?
Oh, we're gonna hold it open and stuff, and we're gonna go out and schedule a site.
There's no
Proceeding
date.
have
You're
come with
free to
all
go
kinds
in,
of pictures and superimposed and things to hand us all. So we're used to that now.
Can I make a couple of comments or
Yes.
ask a couple of questions, et cetera? You know, I don't have any feel whatsoever for this application because basically all that was submitted when it was filed were the plans. We had no written
Yeah, you said you
petition
wanted a memorandum. I
or
thought-
memo or anything else describing the project in detail, describing the relevant data in detail. And I don't even know that we have all of the relevant data yet. I'm looking at the proposed elevation plan, and I don't see anything on here with respect to base flood
No,
elevation.
That's the drawings that were brought in today, which I will submit. And I know that you'd asked for a chart.
Okay, anything that was brought in today, we have no knowledge of. The only
I
thing we
understand.
have any knowledge of is what's shown on the plans, and without a written, detailed description of the project the various relevant data, you're showing natural grade on here, et cetera. You gotta pick this thing apart to try to figure out what data relates to existing, what data relates to proposed. And so we're basically
Rick, I know, when I spoke to you
hearing
earlier,
this
you said you would
for the
like
first
a
time.
memorandum, so.
And, without any real feel for it. It sounds, so I'm just talking out loud. And all the other applications, we had all this stuff in advance. So when we came to the hearing, we had a pretty good feel about what the application was all about. And even then, some of the applications took a long time. It sounds to me like, but I could be wrong because I don't have a feel for this yet. It sounds to me like that that the existing house does not conform to base flood elevation stuff. It sounds to me like you're going to be doing a substantial renovation to, forgetting about whether or not you do an addition, you're going to be doing a substantial renovation to the existing house. I don't have the Chapter 62 flood damage prevention code in front of me, and it sounds like that the cost of what you're going to be doing
It's going to exceed.
this is going to be a substantial improvement.
Yes.
So that you're either going to have to elevate the house, which you're not proposing to do, it sounds like, or you're going to have to get a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yes.
Without even talking about an addition, to
that is correct.
Renovate. That's going to be not a simple. I understand you can have arguments, historic preservation, and all that stuff. I'm not saying it would be a bad application, but it's certainly going to be an application that's going to take a while. I don't know, since I don't handle the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation, I don't know to what extent they have, but I'm certainly under the impression that they have some type of procedure or format where you can meet informally.
No, they don't. No,
They don't have that
They
anymore?
eliminated
that.
that.
They did away with that.
Unfortunately, that's what we were hoping for too.
Well, because you were good points and bad
you
points.
certainly, you won't even be, first of all, an application to the zoning board for relief from Chapter 62 in order to do a substantial renovation. That's not something that is stayed by the moratorium.
We understand that, but basically, apparently the
It's
design.
certainly something that's going to take far longer than, I would guess, far longer than the length of time that remains for this moratorium.
That application certainly is going to be a lengthy one. It was the situation of what comprehensive that we were going to go there for, because what is going to ultimately go here sort of drives what the rest of the building, it's like the chicken and the egg situation here. That was why certainly the moratorium does not foreclose that application, but what is going to be put in that application depends on what the ARB is going to allow for this. That's what I've been told by the architect, so, and the client.
You're not going to know what the ARB is going to allow for this at the time you go to the zoning board. Or are you planning to go to both boards simultaneously?
Yes, I thought we were going to have a coordinated review on this, because it's going to be rather, because of the historic nature of the situation and how the ARB record from the previous hearings, I mean, they were adamant about what they wanted to see and the level of detail. So,
Why don't we do this?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that stops you from going to the zoning board. In response to Michael's comment, there's nothing that stops you from going to the zoning board. That's going to be long application. I can't remember. I mean, I've been village attorney since 1993. I don't even remember an application. But I could be wrong. My memory's not what it used to be. But I don't know that I even remember an application for a variance from Chapter 62 in order to do a substantial renovation of an existing house without complying with FEMA.
Well,
so you're going to need to present a strong case there based on historic stuff.
When we were discussing this,
I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe even the zoning board would, if you're not going to be able to go informally before the ARB because of their current procedures, not because of the moratorium, that the moratorium only prevents the ARB from scheduling a public hearing.
Right.
It doesn't prevent any informal
if you
input.
Would,
but I don't know whether they do that or not. I can't speak to them.
Would you allow?
But it may be that the zoning board would want. I would guess that the zoning board, before granting a variance from Chapter 62 for a substantial renovation, they're not gonna want to set a precedent for granting
if we could get
willy-nilly granting variances from the requirement that FEMA elevation requirements be complied with. You're going to have to make a strong case.
If
they could even ask for recommendations from the ARB on that.
What I'm saying is that if this client could get a go-ahead, I don't know under this moratorium how that we could file an advisory thing with the ARB. That would go a long way because obviously, as I said, it's a chicken and the egg thing, and so if we could start and have the ARB just take a look at the design and have their input, that may take 3 months. It's just that right now they won't accept it. So
if we apply now, we're not even. I mean, just to even get on the
The moratorium does not prevent them from doing a preliminary review.
Isn't there
the ARB doesn't do that preliminary review anyway. They stopped doing that because there were several cases that came in front that they had done preliminary reviews on that backfired. And so it sounded to me like what Rick was saying is you could actually go in front of the ZBA, start the application with them to start that process. They could make a recommendation to get feedback from the ARB maybe.
We know that from discussing this in my office as well as the clients, that this is a serious application for FEMA. That we're going to be asking for some serious relief from the FEMA regulations. And one of the only reasons that was even a feasibility is because of the existing record on how significant that this house is and the provisions in the current code, village code, that allows, and it has to be a pretty serious historical situation for those to be granted, that this application had a chance. All right. So if it wasn't for the already existing huge record before the ARB saying just how significant this was, obviously we would be looking at other alternatives. Right?
The ARB pretty much said you can't demo. Period. Senator has to. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough spot.
Yeah. No. So you're right. It's the chicken or the egg here. And,
I mean, certainly you're going to hold us open. I don't want to belabor the point. We'll get the I know that Rick wanted a written dialogue with all the things, which is fine.
I know what the board has gotten in the other cases. I know what they would want in this case.
We were at sort of an impasse here of where to go. It was requested. We will get it to you. But from what I'm getting at is, if I don't know how it's feasible of maybe we can get before the ARB. They don't do those informal things anymore, as you indicated. Can there be a limited where we can file something for them to review on a formal basis? Is that a...
Well, I actually, what I'd like for us to do is we'll leave this hearing open. Let's get the memorandum to Rick. If you want to, maybe reach out to Rick and you guys can figure out maybe there's a path here that give him a chance to, give all of us a chance to go and look at the property, walk the property. review the package and review the memorandum when it comes in, and then try to develop a game plan that obviously this is a very challenged piece of property. It's an invaluable piece of property because of the original occupant of it and what it means to Southampton. And so we really need to do something that's gonna, protect this structure right here, because the original structure is pretty much intact, right?
Yes.
It just has those two side additions that were basically fairly minor, but the original part of it is.
Actually, I believe that the original application that was for the demolition, they were denied for taking down the entire building, including the Philip Johnson wing. But on the secondary part of it, for the hardship, they did allow the removal of the two wings, but did not allow the removal of the main portion of the building.
And this is different from the other ones that we've heard, because this is the first one where we're dealing with an actual house
Right,
that's staying,
right.
so
Yeah,
that doesn't meet the moratorium.
okay.
But, I have one question actually for the council. Even if we okayed the height under FEMA, under the Coastal Erosion Act, don't they have to go get either an exemption from FEMA requirements or comply to FEMA?
Under Chapter 62, not coastal erosion, but flood damage prevention.
Right.
You'd have to get a variance.
The code require, if you spend more than, I think it's 50%.
50%.
If the, there's dollar figures as to the cost of what you propose to do to the house, even if you're not making any additions. And if you're spending more than 50%, I don't remember the exact wording of the 50% rule, but you must elevate. And that's why I brought up the question. It sounds to me like Chapter 62 requires that this house be elevated before they spend the money to do what they want to do in the way of renovations.
Right, so
if
to
that's
me,
the case,
yeah.
unless they get a variance from that Chapter 62 requirement from the zoning board, they won't be able to do what they want to do.
But there's no point us hearing it either.
So I'm not even sure why this is before you.
Yeah.
But the only one thing that I have a question on is basically you're taking the footprint and the square of the Philip Johnson, and you're just putting a pitched roof on it, essentially. So your addition to this house is nothing more than a roof line, in a sense.
Yes.
So, in a way, it's not like they're just taking the same exact footprint of the I mean, you could take apart every piece of glass in that, rebuild that whole thing, put windows in it, put a roof on it.
No,
and
not
essentially-
without a FEMA, I don't know, I think we're.
All right, I'm confused about that, because I thought you were just taking exactly what you had and just putting,
Well, they're renovating more than 50% of the house.
oh, okay. Oh, because the whole house
So
needs
that
renovation.
takes them in a
Right.
whole different.
Okay.
And it's like, what Rick is saying is like, why aren't you at the ZBA and first getting that variance? And we were discussing, we had that discussion, but what's going to happen there, because they're going to do some rearranging on the inside, depends on what happens on this proposed wing. So we were sort of, it's like the proverbial chicken and the egg situation.
Well, it's hard because here we
My
have,
guess
here we
is
have an
that by the
application.
time you put together a package, again, I'm just guessing. I'm not talking about filling out a zoning board application form that checks a couple of boxes. I'm talking about putting together a real application that addresses, at least in summary form, the grounds for
The FEMA relief.
variance from Chapter 62. My guess is that the earliest that you could possibly have an application for a public hearing before the zoning board would be the end of March.
Well, as I said, when we filed this last year, we weren't, we were, the suggestions came out much quicker than we anticipated. All right, so we will go back to the.
I mean, you need to evaluate whether you want to pursue this application to the Board of Trustees or not. I don't have any feel because unfortunately.
I understand, Rick, whether we're going to.
If you want to
suggestions
pursue
are-
this application, you're going to have to file, you're going to have to prepare and submit, a memorandum going through the standards in the in the moratorium law, summarizing the data, summarizing the project,
I will speak to the
et
client as
cetera.
well as.
You're
the,
also going to have to address what you present,
Yeah,
alluded
I
to
understand.
tonight.
What was brought tonight by the architect, et cetera. Why don't,
But don't ask us to just look at the plans
I understand.
and figure out what you're proposing.
If you will,
By the
if
time
you'll-
you get that, the next hearing would be on what, February 12th? Whatever that.
Yeah.
We will,
You're not likely to get a decision that night because the public hearing is still open. We don't quite have a feel for that yet.
why don't I go
It
back?
might be the end of February before you even have a decision from the zoning board,
Since
from the Board of Trustees.
Since the suggestions are out, I'd like to speak to the client as well as the architect to see whether this should be pursued or where they want to start working on basically the ZBA application. I mean, as I said, we did not realize that the suggestions and the planning commission would be acting as quickly as they did.
I think you
And
gotta
I think
work
also
on
based on the
FEMA.
history of this property, though, we really want to get it in front of the ARB as soon as possible. The deadline for the ARB meeting at the end of February 23rd is this Friday. So we were kind of hoping we could at least go and say, are we in the right direction, or, you don't like the gable, what? In order to comply to the ZBA, we need to have some guidance from the ARB, who have spent a lot of time with this also.
Well, I mean, we're not gonna, so you're not gonna make your
Well,
Friday
you know what?
deadline, so.
If you,
I don't even know that we can even fit this into the moratorium, as I hear about it, because the moratorium is designed for a height thing in relation to a house that has to be elevated. You're not proposing to elevate the house.
We're not proposing to elevate the house, but the moratorium, the
Oh, I'm
reason
not
we-
saying
yeah.
the moratorium doesn't apply. I'm
Yeah.
just
So-
saying, I don't know whether
We
this-
were trying to figure out how we could even
Whether
get.
this could possibly meet the standards for an exemption from the moratorium. That's the question that Michael was raising. And the moratorium's going to be over before you,
We're finding that the moratorium is going to be soon be over. I said
before
we
you
will.
get anywhere near the stage of
Yeah, we went to the planning
a
commission,
building
Suffolk
permit.
County
So even
Planning
if you got an
Commission said,
exemption from the
"We're not
moratorium, it might
wasting
not do you
time
any
on
good."
this.
Okay.
It's not fair to anybody, so.
If you just put it off to that, you may, I mean, obviously you're going to hear from me before then, one way or the other.
What we'll do
you know,
is,
so.
we're gonna keep this hearing open, okay? Allow you to do the memorandum, submit everything to Rick.
Well,
have
depending on, the
discussions
client
here.
may decide to
And
go a
then
different route.
if the client chooses to move forward with this, then we'll address it at that point. If they then, you guys can,
You're welcome to come
withdraw
to the
the-
site. too.
I'd love to be able to walk the site.
Oh,
and look-
You're
look at the
definitely
place.
welcome to come look at the
There's
site.
no gate.
All right,
Who's bringing lunch?
The attorney.
all right, great. So, make the motion, keep the public hearing open. I'll make a motion to keep the public hearing open. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All righty.
We have two communications from the board that were just going in. From Herbert Clapper, Dear Mayor Epley, I reside at Farrington Close, 520 Hampton Road, number 13, Southampton, and on Christmas Day, unfortunately, and to my own wrongdoing, had a fire in my fireplace. Thanks to the extraordinary and expeditious help of your fire department, damage was avoided and the fire put out. I cannot compliment enough on the team of workers who saved our home from damage. Their care, concern, and professionalism was beyond anything expected. I want to thank them publicly and apologize for taking them out on Christmas Day. Happy New Year to all. Herbert Clapper.
Nice letter.
Yeah, it just like defines our fire department. Christmas Day, people leaving their families on Christmas Day to go out, and so.
And then success at the end of it.
Yeah. So what a great group of volunteers, yeah.
Second one's from Southampton Public Schools. Southampton High School is hosting the East End Relay for Life and Special Olympics Friday, May 15th to Sunday, May 17th. We're requesting the use of the showmobile for the weekend events. We anticipate several hundred families participating in both events. We are seeking many donations to help make this event a success. Please let me know if there will be any fees associated with the showmobile so we can plan accordingly. Thank you for your consideration. This matter is greatly appreciated. Brian Zahn, Principal.
Okay, we did this last year with the Special Olympics. What if you didn't get a chance to go to see the Special Olympics last year on that Sunday, you need to go this year. Because it makes you feel good about this community and all the other communities that put teams in, and the work that's being done with these kids and the effort that they put forth and their enthusiasm for life is really incredible. So
Good stuff.
it's really fantastic, and a great group of volunteers that have done this. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize Southampton High School to utilize the Shoma bill in accordance with their letter dated January 9, 2015 for the Relay for Life and Special Olympics.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For the resolutions, item 1, resolved that the reading of the minutes for the public session of January 8th, 2015 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved.
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated January 20th, 2015 totaling $399,959.80, warrant 10 general fund, $54,897, warrant 8 capital fund, and $1,282.05, warrant 16 trust fund be ordered and approved. Got a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Page 2, Devis Spellman, 1,276.22 on the case of Conrad versus the Village. Peter Enstein, Fire Department, volunteer reimbursement of $1,000. Page 4, Winters Garden Center, December supplies for the Parks Department, $1,713.28. Messiano Consulting, grant writing services through December, $1,312.50. Page 5, North Sea Plumbing and Heating, boiler work at 25 Jobs Lane, $10,425. New York State Health Insurance for February, $253,498.34. Pine Barrens Printing, 4x4 permits, $1,544.25. PSE&G for the Fire Department, $4,562.07. PSE&G for the Police Department, $5,255.60. And page 6, PSE&G for Street Lighting Services, $8,716.79. Red the Uniform Tailor, PD Uniforms, $2,301.78. Recam Holdings, refunded building fee, $18,750. Page 8, CTV to the Southampton Town, $15,941.33. Sprague operating reserves, 3,000 gallons of gas, $4,800.90. Squires Holden staking out the foundations on Bailey Road, $1,500. Page 9, Suffolk County Water Authority hydrant rental, $26,833.50. Thomas Stehecki, leaf and wood chip disposal, $10,000. Verizon December phone bill, $3,608.23. And page 10, W&G Services, air conditioning repair over at 25 Jobs Lane in the Vault, $4,472.75. Capital Reserve warrant, $22,000 for Firematic Supply for thermal imaging cameras for the fire department, and National Auto Fleet highway pickup truck, $32,897. And the trust warrant, tax certiorari, tax sale certificate redemption to Richard Hyman, $1,282.05. For the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 3 we did. Item 4, resolved the Board of Trustees approve the release of the balance of the performance bond in the amount of $15,000 to Hampton Road Realty LLC as recommended by Jonathan Foster, Building Inspector. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the appointment of Michael Thomas Bush as probationary member of the Southampton Hose Company effective January 21st, 2015. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the appointment of Constantine Bellides as a probationary member of the Hook and Ladder Company effective January 21st, 2015. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the appointment of Brian McLaughlin as a probationary member of the Agawam Engine Company effective January 21st, 2015. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following scheduled dates at 6:30 p.m. for the 2015 concerts in the park. Wednesday, July 1st at Cooper's Beach. Wednesday, July 8th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, July 15th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, July 22nd, Cooper's Beach. Wednesday, July 29th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, August 5th, Agawam Park. Saturday, August 8th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, August 12th, Cooper's Beach. Tuesday, August 18th at Agawam Park. Wednesday, August 19th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, August 26th, Agawam Park. And Wednesday, September 2nd, Agawam Park. For the motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Do we know what that Tuesday, because they've got a Tuesday and a Wednesday.
Yeah, they're adding 2 more concerts
Okay.
this year.
Yeah.
The temporary bans, but they're not locked up yet.
Okay.
And then also with Labor Day being late too, you get another
Right.
Wednesday
Right.
there also. So it's going to be a longer summer this year. Item 9
Yay.
is...
We had a yay in the audience.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following payments from the capital reserve account, subject to permissive referendum. Fire Matter Supply, $22,000 from the Fire Equipment Reserve, and National Auto Fleet Group, $32,897 from the Major Equipment Reserve. Do you have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 10, resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of Christina Harrigan as a part-time court clerk at an hourly rate of $18. Do you have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
Second?
This is only to, we had, Leith was out sick for a couple of days, so it's just a replacement. One of the 2 girls are out ill.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion items, 20 Gin Lane. You do have a follow-up email in your book there from Bill Manger, regard to relocating the house.
I have a question about that, is it closed hearing?
Yeah. But this communication came in, so, yeah. It's no, frankly, it's no different than anything else that he's put in writing beforehand, so, yeah. And exactly what he stated here, so it's nothing groundbreaking over there. Okay. And we have 20 Gin Lane. I know we, most of us had an opportunity to go out and look at the property. Any feedback from our tour there? Bill, you were sick, and we still you were a champion and trooper by going out and going to the property and stuff. So
I don't know what I'm missing, but I like the application as it is.
yeah. Mike?
Well, I think the general consensus is that although there has been discussion of moving into the farther corner to the northeast, I think it's much better centrally located. And I think we'll have less impact centrally located. It is going to be a big impact, but there is a large house in back. So that probably the house in back is that going to be higher? It will be higher.
What are you saying? I mean, towards the east of it?
A house to the east of it. It will be taller than it is. Or hopefully so, unless you keep going up.
I mean, I think that's kind of the idea behind what the planning commission's been working on, is trying to center the structures on the property to minimize impact to the surrounding areas and stuff. And I don't know what you gain by moving it. And it stood on that property, it's all big houses around it. You have quite a view of a lot of homes in the area, and just, so.
I mean, I understand Mr. Manger's point, but I think part of the issue here that everybody, us included, and just the general public, and certainly him, is grappling with is the fact that, as you pointed out, you had this wide open land for a very long time, and it's just tough to know that. Unfortunately, whichever side of the equation you are there, it got sold and it got divided up, and
Divided a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think it was divided before we were ever on.
So it was subdivided a long time ago.
So,
They're just now at a point where they're selling it.
Yeah, and they're doing, and so, and in light of all the recommendations we've gotten from all these people that have come in front of us, and our commission, that's where it's been proposed, is seemingly where it needs to be, all things considered.
Well, the one advantage that's working for that building is the larger, traditional, pre-existing buildings behind it because you won't get the effect that all of a sudden you got this monolithic tower sitting in the middle of an empty field. You actually have houses that are equal proportions around it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
Not that I'm proponing
yeah.
building houses everywhere,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I'd much rather
Sounds
see
to
it
me like the
open.
board is
Yeah.
prepared to vote in favor of granting the exemption. Am I hearing you correctly?
I think so.
If that's the case, in anticipation that that's where you were going to end up, I prepared a written decision so that we wouldn't just have to do a verbal motion. That's one for the file.
We have some whereases.
And there's a whereas. There's a pursuant, okay, got a few pursuants.
Basically, the written decision points out the similarity between this application and the 22 Gin Lane application, which you granted a couple of months ago. Although this application involved, although the roof ridge will be at a 1 foot higher elevation on this case than on the other, we point out that it will be set back substantially further from the street than 22 Gin Lane. We also note that the proposed house will be 32 feet high, measured from the required first floor elevation, which is 3 feet less than what's allowed under the existing zoning code without the moratorium. So we're getting a reduction of 3 feet in height, and it's similar to the one that you already granted. In both cases, they presented similar hardship information. They presented similar information with respect to the heights of existing houses in the neighborhood. And on this one, at the last hearing, they also presented, a sky plane thing showing, conformity with that. That's basically what the decision lays out, and then it goes ahead and makes the findings that meet the standards for an exemption.
Okay. So you want to make a motion to?
If you want to pursue, it would be a motion to adopt the written decision as presented at this meeting and to annex the decision to the minutes of the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for coming to the site, I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Okay. That's it. Well done, Rick.
Pulling this out of his back
Rick,
pocket.
yeah, another well
I figured
done.
if you were going to grant it, there's no point in delaying them another
No, I know.
2 weeks.
Right.
It's just like, here you go, blam.
No, it's a,
At least it
another,
wasn't a chicken and egg situation.
right. Another well-written, resolution, there, so.
Very nicely done.
Okay, discussions items, we're done there.
On the cultural center, we have to replace the carpet tiles in the front part of the Levitt Center, and we've been getting some prices of anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000. Suggestion came up to replace that instead with flooring, which we cannot do there due to the condition of the floor. However, we looked into the vinyl planking floor, similar to what we have up on the second floor here. It's a different type of planking. It's actually much nicer than what we have here, but it's a floating type of planking. Tom Knighton and Kirsten are way for it. They really love it. The positive things about it is that with the amount of the cocktail receptions they have, people spill wine, they spill coffee, whatever the case may be. That's what's staining the tiles. It's about another $5,000 more than the carpet tiles, but it's a much nicer looking floor, and obviously it's much longer lasting. The good thing about this too, they're actually called floating planks. They're about 8 inches wide. It gives a very rich looking feel towards it. And if they're ever scratched for some unknown reason, you just actually pick up that one tile and replace it with a replacement. So it's you can easily replace a damaged tile there. John Cause and building maintenance is definitely in favor. It's make their life a lot easier for maintenance. So we'd like to go forward with making the extra $5,000 investment on it. I think it makes a lot of sense. And it gives Kirsten a lot more uses of that room with regard to any dance programs or whatever, because she's not hindered by the carpet. So all parties are in favor for this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they've done that Cultural Center board has really done a fantastic job with building that cultural center and getting some excellent programming going on. And there's a lot of activity that's going on there. Kirsten's done a good job with that. So, yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of this. So it's a $13,236.95.
Right.
Okay. So, do we have to do anything?
No, I just want to, let
Okay.
you know that we're going to be switching over
Okay.
to this.
Great.
It's a great price for this, and it's a really nice looking
Yeah.
product.
Good. Oh, it sounds like a great idea.
All right.
Okay. All right. Comments from board members here. Trustee Yaz.
I'm good.
Wow.
Rick, the council did all the talking tonight. He did a lot of talking. He must be tired.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that because then you'd give me grief.
Mike?
Well, I would like to just support the Southampton Arts Association on opening up that wall, because they have done such a great job with that facility. I honestly think so. And the grounds are so important there, because you got areas that we could have tables for people, and we have discussed numerous times that we want to make the village a walking village. Well, you have that large parking lot in the back with better avenue than to bring them from that parking lot out front. The other thing I really like is the fact that they're opening it up. You walk around the village now, you go down First Neck Lane, around the pond and stuff, everybody has gates. I'd like to see that change and get rid of the gates and invite people in, because we're a community. And to me, gates and that kind of thing just say stay out. And we don't want them to stay out. We want them to come in. So great job.
Well, thanks for the support on that. Nancy?
I agree with all of that, and I also feel that, and I agree that that property is an important property to bring people into the village. Obviously, it's a form of recreation, just as eating out is a form of recreation. And when people are in the village, they tend to go into the shops, and then it keeps our shops active, and they don't have to close. So I think that that's an important part of our community. That being said, I want the public to know that there is a meeting on January 27th over at the town, and the town is going to be discussing the change of zone on County Road 39 to shopping center, which of course I don't know if everyone knows this, but that County Road 39 has been zoned highway business. And highway business is such where it's not a high traffic item. It isn't every day that you buy a car, and it isn't every day that you buy a sofa. But if they change that to shopping center, they will have a large supermarket there, which will have a lot of in and out traffic. And more importantly, well, two things. More importantly, the entrance and exit, one of the main entrances and exits will be on McGee Street. And my feeling, and a lot of other people feel this way as well, if people are coming in and out of McGee Street, then the traffic on West Prospect and all those little side streets in our village will increase significantly. Grocery stores probably have at least, I know it was discussed at Wallbounds, they had 12,000 visitors a week. So if you can imagine 12,000, and this is going to be a larger supermarket, 12,000 or more people going in and out of that store, and a lot of them using our little side streets, it's going to be a nightmare. Also, that developer also owns the adjoining 7.5 acres. So if he gets this change of zone to shopping center, which has never been allowed on that highway, we know at some point down the road he's going to apply to expand his shopping center, getting exactly what he wanted, and was turned down the first time around. So I'm saying this to the public because I think the public needs to go to that meeting. I'm not sure of the time. I don't know if it's in the afternoon or in the evening. Do you know, Mark?
I'm not sure.
So, and this village board is very concerned about it, and I just feel that the public should be aware of it, and those village residents that live in that area should really come out and voice their opinion on it.
Hey, Bill?
Rick, a week and a half ago, somebody called me up and made a suggestion for the village. It's a legal issue. The person is in a federal witness protection program, so I can't tell you who it was, but believe me, they know the issues. They made a simple thing, and you can just think about this, how whether or not this would be a wise thing for the village to do, but they said that they thought the village should create an overlay district in the historic areas of Meadow and Gin Lane, and in that overlay district, no contemporary homes could be built, period. And certainly would have been nice if that was there a year ago, but it just, the person knows a great deal. So would you think about that? You don't have to tell me tonight how difficult that is to do, but it certainly would evade going through these trials with somebody who's trying to put something up that most of us would agree doesn't belong in the historic district.
Well, the problem there would be defining what's well, first of all, you'd have to amend our historic preservation code, which can be done. I don't remember if we have to get an approval from the state before we amend that code. But the problem would be if you're going to put in a flat prohibition of contemporary homes within a defined area, however you do it, whether it's an overlay or whether it's however it's described, you're going to have a definition of a contemporary home. And it would be beyond my expertise to prepare such a definition. That would...
Isn't it a synonym of contemptible? Contemporary?
Forgive me, I'm having difficulty hearing you. I know you have a bad voice, but I couldn't hear that if it was for me.
Oh, it was
extraneous.
Exactly. So no.
You would need an architectural or a historical consultant or somebody like that to draft some kind of a definition that would define what you mean.
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
It just came from a very serious player.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I know it's the kind of thing where, quote, you know it when you see it.
Right.
But that's not always the case.
Yeah. Well, it's
the BARHP might not agree that what you know when you see is what they know when they see. So
you look at the Henry Ford house and the addition on the Henry Ford house and the flat glass And that's
Johnson
from
edition.
Philip Johnson edition. So today's terms, you can probably classify that edition as a contemporary component to a traditional looking house.
That's why I say it's synonymous with contemptible. Just
Right, yeah. That's what you're saying, contemptible. So,
And let me tell you, when that glass box was put on that house, it was the talk of the town. People were driving down there to look at it, they couldn't believe it. But it was Henry Ford, and Henry Ford wanted that edition, and he got that edition, and it was, people just couldn't even believe it. You know?
anything else, Bill? No, okay. Just one thing, it's Southampton Hospital is doing a breakfast meeting on Friday, February 13th at 9 a.m. and the whole purpose is it's a tick-borne disease resource center that they're setting up, and they're inviting elected officials. I'm actually going to be leaving out of town on that day, so I didn't know if anybody wanted to attend.
What's the date?
It's Friday, February 13th at 9 a.m. at Southampton.
Goes to the winter break, right? Is that one?
So, yeah. So I don't know if anybody's interested in that. I've got that. Bailey Road, our affordable housing, they broke ground up there, and they're doing work and excavating the site and making preparations for pouring foundations. Pretty exciting.
Are the three applicants picked for that?
They are. Steve, do you know?
I know there's been some shifts, but it's a good combination. It's basically exactly what you wanted. I think there's a public safety dispatcher, there's a volunteer, ambulance volunteer, and a fire department, I think a teacher. I believe that's the mix there.
You're right. So, three people that serve this community and be great. And then, also, at the last meeting, we approved the return of the building fees for 51 Pond Lane. And I just wanted to let people know that, we, as a board, had to return that because of the request. And I tell you, I am unbelievably disappointed in these property owners. And the things that they said and the promises that they made. And, it's just absolutely turns my stomach. And I tell you that I feel fortunate that we were able to, pull parts of that building out, the original parts of that building that we have. We've got those in storage. I think working with Fred Thiel and a group of people, I think, have developed a good plan for rebuilding of this structure and honoring this man. It's really, to me, this is just as bad as it gets right here. That's all I have to say about 51 Pond Lane. And I really just, it's absolutely infuriating what they did. So I'll come in and say this: I'm building my dream home, and then turn around and do this. Not good. So
doubled the value, didn't it?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So. And that's all I have to say about 51 Pond Lanes. Okay. So we have a second public comment section. Anybody from the public? Chief, you're here. Would you like to take a moment and talk about the police department? Come on up anyway.
I'll second.
Actually, you know what? Come on up. I would like to recognize. We had a bomb threat at the school. And it was, and I tell you, I really have to commend the Southampton Public School administration and the superintendent and the principals and the way they handled that and keeping the parents informed and working with the police department on this. I think you guys did a great job in getting over there, and we had there were threats at Mercy and Riverhead on the same day. And if you wanted to get into that a little bit.
Well, for us, it was not a You know, a lot of times the hardest part is when they say there's a device in the school. This one, they were going to drive a truck. So for us, tactically, that's not too tough. We just close the road.
Right.
It's not so great for the cops standing there on the road that may be faced with that truck coming down the road, but that's kind of what we're here for. But, you know, the detectives are looking at it, and the state police are working on it because they're involved with the two in Riverhead. And so far, we've tracked the phone call to Iowa, but we think it was obviously bounced through computer programming, but we're picking away at it. So I think we're going to, talking to Sergeant Lamson, he thinks that ultimately we're going to figure out who did it, and we'll deal with them.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it worked, you know, very good cooperation.
Yeah. And I think so too, and I think the police department did a great job. I think the school system did a fantastic job keeping peace and order and keeping parents informed, and you didn't have...
And nobody got too excited.
Nobody did. And its community did. The parents did a nice job. So I don't know how my wife would have reacted, or I would have reacted if, you know, one of my children had been in there. But I tell you, that it was a great job by a lot of people.
Yeah, we didn't have it as quite as, you know, without getting into too many of the details. At Mercy, it was kind of like every time they made a decision to kind of help these kids stay safe, the person like put them in a bad position, whereas with our situation, it wasn't that complicated. We just had to do what we had to do to do the best we could, you know.
Okay.
So we had it a little easier, but it's never easy, but it was not as complicated for us, so that was good for us.
Great.
Great job.
Okay. Yeah, good.
And a great job in all
So,
the departments
thanks.
communicating, all the neighboring departments.
Yep, he did. Okay, so no further comment from me. So I'm going to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personal matters involving village employees.
Second?
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.